things for you to remember before we begin the test. First, this is a reading test, okay? So make sure that you're a really solid reader before you answer these. Second, I'm not actually practicing this technique as we go through here just based on the video format, but you want to make sure that you follow the SQ3R method. And I have a video right here that goes with it. Number 3, some answers you're going to know and some of them you won't. Some answers on the social studies test are random facts that you either know or you don't. So try to eliminate the answers that you know are not the correct answer. And number 4 is to just practice. Practice as many practice problems as you can. In fact, I recommend that you watch the entire length of this video so that you can just really practice a lot. Let's take a look at the first question. Which of the following questions about a state's budget would be most difficult to answer? A, did the state provide enough money for education this year? Well, the word enough right here, like what does enough mean? Maybe your definition of enough is different than my definition of enough. So that question is a little iffy there. B, did education receive the greatest proportion of a state's budget this year? So what if we had like a little pie chart and here education received half, right? We could tell based on other things what the proportion is, right? So we know B is not going to be the answer. C, what was the amount of money provided for education this year greater than it was last year? Well, again, we can tell. We can look at this year and we can look at last year to see which one was paid more. So C is not going to be the answer. And D, how much money did the state provide for education this year? Well, we can easily figure that out. How much did they do? So that's not going to be it either. So the answer here is A. Did the state provide enough money for education this year? Because it is difficult to answer because different definitions are different for enough. Which of the following statements about the Vietnam War are based on direct evidence? So hard facts, right? Which statement is based primarily on circumstantial evidence or inference? So not so much fact, but more sort of guessing. A, in 1968, more than 500,000 American soldiers were in Vietnam. Right, that's pretty factual, right? So that's not the answer. B, in 1965, President Johnson ordered U.S. combat units into battle in Vietnam, and U.S. military involvement ended in 1963. Well, that also seems pretty factual, right? It's not really guessing. So B is probably not the answer. C, lack of military success in Vietnam led to President Johnson's decision not to run for re-election in 1968. We don't really know that for sure. That would definitely be a guess, right? So let's just hold that one a second. And D, President Eisenhower sent military advisors to Vietnam in the 1950s. Well, that's pretty factual. So that leaves us with C for the answer. Is that what you got too? All right, for this next one, looks like we've got a map of the South Pole, or Antarctica rather. So it looks like we're kind of looking at the globe from upside down. And we have the Arctic Circle, the Atlantic Ocean. It's really the entire continent here. So let's look at the question. The horizontal line in the middle of each circle below represents the Earth's equator. Okay, so looks like we've got the equators right here. It's just essentially on the middle of all of them, right? So which of these diagrams indicates the perspective used to draw the map? Okay, now I know and you know that Antarctica is at the bottom of the world, right? So if it's at the bottom of the world, are we going to look like A has us looking from the side perspective? I don't think so. C has us looking from the other side. Again, not so much. And D has us looking down. Are we looking down? No, we're looking up, right? We're looking up at Antarctica. So D is not it. So that would definitely leave B as the answer. So the next several questions deal with this graph right here. I know you can't see it very well because my picture is in the way, but I'll show it to you again. So let's read it. The following graph shows the populations of 5 U.S. cities based on census data from 1850 to 2010. So here we have 1850 right over here, and then it just kind of goes up to 2010. New York City was the most populous city throughout the time period. So you'll notice here, New York City represents these little bar graphs right there. Each of the other 4 cities, oh, you really can't see those, but you will in just a second, I promise, show the second most populous city. So each of these little tiny dots that are right along here represent the second most populated city. So let's take a look at the questions that relate to this graph. All right, there's the graph. We've got New York, Los Angeles, Chicago, Philadelphia, and Baltimore. So those were the 5 biggest cities at some point in the last 150 years. Okay, so from 1900 to 2000, so let's look. Here we've got 1900 to 2000, so we're looking at this time frame right here. Which of these cities grew at the fastest rate? Okay, so let's kind of look. We've got Los Angeles. Looks like it's growing pretty fast. Look at that line going up. Chicago, it goes up, and then look, it starts to kind of go down a little bit. Oops, my line was a little too long. Philadelphia, it goes up, and then it kind of goes down. Baltimore is up and then down, but pretty steady. So which grew at the fastest rate? Definitely Los Angeles. Look at this. Look at this line. It's like going straight up. So the answer would definitely be A. During which of these time periods was Chicago the second most populous city in the United States? So let's kind of look here at Chicago. So it looks like from this point on down to this point, so these years right here, it was the second most populous city, right? So let's look here. We've got like 1890 all the way up to 1980. Is there one that says that? Yes, bingo. The answer is C. So sometimes when I'm looking at these questions, I go through each question and eliminate them. But when I'm looking at a question like this, I definitely look at the graph and then see it aligns with what the answers are. And it does in this case. Okay, which of these characteristics of large cities best explains the population growth of cities? This has nothing to do with the graph at all, but that's okay. Let's read what it says. Okay, so again, what makes cities grow essentially? So, A, cities have a wide range of leisure activities available. Do people usually move to a big city because of the leisure activities? Leisure would just mean like fun things to do. I would think not so much. Cities have well-developed mass transit systems. Woohoo for the subway! Do you move to a big city because of a subway? I don't. C, cities provide many housing options. Oh my goodness, this city has a house. Maybe I'll move there. Is that really why you move there? Because there's a house for you to live in? No. Let's look at D. Hopefully that's the answer because we have no other choices. Cities are centers for economic production, aka jobs, right? Do you move to a big city because of a job? Certainly, that's why a lot of people move. So the answer is D. Okay, which of these cities is farthest from an ocean? This one doesn't relate to our graph either. This one is basically geography, and you either know it or you don't. So let's draw a rough map of the United States. Okay, good luck, Michelle, with your map. Okay, so there's like Washington, California, then we kind of, down to Florida, up. That is a terrible map. Okay, but anyway, we can get the gist of it. All right, Los Angeles. It's in California, so it's right over here. right? Then we have Chicago, which is like right in here. It seems like it goes like that a little bit more. Philadelphia is right over here. And Baltimore is right down here. So which is furthest from an ocean? Looks like they're all pretty darn close to an ocean, except for B, Chicago. Chicago is not near the ocean. So I recommend when you're taking the test, or before you take the test, that you have a general idea of where big cities in the United States are located. Okay, looks like we're back to using our chart here. So based on the information in the graph for 1960 to 2010, so let's look 1960 to 2010, which of these cities would be predicted to have the greatest total population decline, so going down, from 1960 to 2010? All right, so we've got Los Angeles. Looks like Los Angeles it's going up, right? So we're not worried about that. Chicago? Looks like it's kind of going down a little bit, don't you think? It's kind of like, woo, and then, yeah, so I would say it's going down. Philadelphia is going down a little bit, but not significantly, not too much. Baltimore, going down just a tiny little bit. So which one is the most, or has the most decline? Definitely B, Chicago. Which of these cities is located farthest west? Okay, so again, you've got to know the location of those big cities. All right, wish me luck as I draw this again. I'm going to start up here with Maine. Okay, so far so good. Oh yeah, that one is much better. Thumbs up for my drawing here. Okay, so Los Angeles, we said, is over here. And Chicago is right here. Philadelphia, Baltimore. Okay, so which is the farthest west? All right, so over here is the east, and over here is the west, right? And then we have our north and our south. So which is farthest west? Clearly, Los Angeles. Know your geography. Which statement about the population of New York City at each census from 1910 to 2010 is true? So let's take a look here back at the chart. 1910 all the way to 2010. Okay, so it increased with every census. Did it really? No, it looks like it goes up and then it kind of goes down and up a little bit. It's definitely not going up with every single census, so not A. It decreased from one census to the next as often as it increased. So that's kind of like do. No, it didn't do that. Sometimes it increased, sometimes it decreased, right? C. It was at least double that of the second largest city. So the second largest city would be like the little dots, right? So all of these would be the second largest city. Is it at least double that? Well, let's take a look. So down here, we have this point right here, which is 3.5 million. And down here we have 1.5 million, about. Is that about double? Yeah. Let's look at the last one. So here we have New York is at just over 8 million people. And then Chicago, Los Angeles, looks like it's about 4 million people. Well, 8 million is twice as much as 4 million. So C is probably it, but let's take a look at D also. It was at least triple that of the second largest city. Well, let's look at it. Is 8 million from New York City 4 times 4 million? No, because 4 times 4 plus 4 plus 4, triple, well, that's 12, and New York City is only at 8. So that's not it. The answer is C. All right, our next question here. Which of these statements about the U.S. Census is not true? How much do you know about the U.S. Census? Let's take our best guess, because my guess is you're not a census pro. Okay, A, it is mandated by the U.S. Constitution. Is it? B, data is collected every 5 years. Now, look at this chart right here. Notice how it's not every 5 years, it's every 10 years. So let's hold that one for a thought. C, the information collected about individuals is considered confidential. Have you ever participated in a census? If you have, you know that they are asking you all sorts of questions. What is your address? How many kids do you have? What's your income? Things like that. Is that information confidential? Yes. So it's probably not going to be C. The data are used to determine the number of seats in the House of Representatives allocated to each state. Okay, now this one you should know. You should know that is true, and because it says up here not, D is not it. So our House of Representatives is based on population, right? So if your state has a larger population, well then you'll have more representatives. If your state is a lower population, then maybe you'll just have one or two. Super important for you to know that. Now remember, Senate, every state gets 2, no matter the size. So that means we're left with A and B. Well, I'm not sure about A, if it's mandated in the Constitution. I don't think I've ever read the Constitution that closely before, or at least not thinking about the census. But I know that B, from my own experience and from this chart, the data is collected every 10 years. It's not collected every 5 years. So B is the answer. So sometimes you really have to use outside information and experiences that you have when answering these questions. Okay, we're moving past the chart on to some new questions. The following 3 statements were true for a small country in a recent year. 1, the total income for the population, $24 billion US. 2, per capita income, $7,000 US. Now remember, per capita sort of means average. If all the income was added together, that 24 billion, and divided by the population, you get 7,000. And 3, 90% of the total income was received by 5% of the population. This means that 5% of the people are probably making a lot of money or receiving a lot of money. And the other 95%, is probably pretty poor. Not so much money going to them. Which of the following information is the most appropriate interpretation of the per capita income information? A, each person living in the country had an income of $7,000. Look at number 3. It says that 90% of the income was received by 5% of the people. So it's not even across the board. And think about here in the United States. Does everyone receive the same income? No. Some receive more, some receive less. So it's definitely not A. B, most of the people in the country had incomes greater than $7,000. Not so much, because there are a lot of people that are making not very much, a few people that are making a ton. Those few people are really going to bring up the average of the people that aren't making very much. So it's actually probably the opposite, right? It's not B. C, half of the people in the country had incomes greater than $7,000 and half had incomes less than $7,000. Well, that's not how you find average, right? That's how you find the mean, median, mode. No, median, mean, median. Median is the number that's sort of right in the middle. So that's not it, right? It's good to know your math skills for social studies. And D, if each person in the country had the same income, they would each have an income of $7,000. Now notice here how it said, if each person had the same income. And that would be yes, because, that's what basically the definition of number 2 is. So the answer is D. All right, the same chart. Which of the following conclusions about the income in the country is best supported by these statements? Okay, A, the total income is evenly distributed among the population. No, we've gone over reasons why it's not. B, 95% of the population have relatively low incomes. Well, if 5% of the people are receiving 90% of the income, then that means that the rest of them, the 95%, are probably not going to be receiving very much. So B is a definite maybe. C, 25% of the population have relatively high incomes. That's a number they're just kind of throwing out. Nothing in there would give us a reason to choose that answer because nothing said 25 or 75%. Okay, and D, 5% of the population have incomes less than $7,000. Okay, no, right? Again, figuring out the average. The average is 7,000. So that leaves our answer with B. Leave a comment down below if you stayed until the end of the video, because that means you are extremely dedicated and devoted to getting this. And you will get this. You will achieve your high school equivalency soon, I hope. Just really practice. This is one video, and I have other videos that will definitely help you with other subjects. Now, go believe in yourself, go be yourself, and of course, be purely persistent. Bye-bye.